I'm Maria Fontanazza from MedAd News, and I'm here with Anna Sastre, Senior Vice President of DEI and Customer Engagement at ConcentricLife. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So today we're going to be talking about prioritizing representation in healthcare. Before we jump in, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to be where you are now?
Yeah, so I think part of my story of who I am is actually the story of how, we tackle representation at Concentric. I come from 20 years of advertising experience, none in healthcare. Concentric was my first healthcare advertising agency. When I came into Concentric, it was a new world to me. The consumer world moves in a very different space than the healthcare space. And what I love is, when I interview at Concentric, it was a very different point of view than what they were used to. Like, I feel the healthcare space is so hermetic in a way. So when I came in, it really showed an openness to have a different point of view come into the industry and have, a different way of saying things and telling stories and talk about D&I in a very different space. So it has been a great ride. I love the healthcare space. I love thinking about doing work that really changes people's lives. And yeah, it's been an amazing, working with Concentric and being able to have impact on the healthcare space.
Great, thank you. And as the U.S. is becoming increasingly diverse, how can pharma agencies learn and work to address that evolving customer base?
So something interesting that, when I started Concentric, I think for a long time people have thought about diversity just on the gender side and the racial side. People have not thought about how diversity is impacted on the stories we tell. Like, I always tell everyone, if you are doing, for example, a pregnancy test, why don't we see a woman being happy because she's not pregnant? Those are stories worth telling. So for a long time, agencies have gone through representation just as a grocery list of having different racial and ethnic groups on, their TV spots, but not really representing the true stories and their life experiences during these health journeys. I think that you're right, the US is shifting populations. There is new majorities in town. And I think the important thing about it is not just think about it on a visual way. I think diversity, equity, and inclusion comes to really being able to represent people as a whole, not just as the visual side of it, but just telling their stories, taking time to listening to them, and doing actually research, not just going out on stereotypes and also just assumptions. It's really doing the work to understand what their stories and how do we represent them correctly.
And so what strategies do you recommend agencies can use to stay in tune with these changing needs so that it's not a grocery list?
So I think education, honestly, is at the forefront of anything that we do. We cannot change if we don't understand why it is important to change and what are the cultural aspects to it. So at Concentric, we do the internal work to be able for the output to represent that. So we have the speaker series. We bring people from very diverse backgrounds. As I said, when I came into healthcare, I saw this kind of like very hermetic space where, a lot of the times we didn't know what was happening in the rest of the industry. So we bring a lot of education to our employees. We keep everybody up to date, but then also what we created is we have that diversity lens through every part of the creative work. So it starts with the creative brief. We are not only coming and putting data, but we're putting a cultural lens through it to really understand, what do we really want to communicate and what is the human experience within that data. Then we go into the creative work, and for example, I work really close with creatives in trying not to only have that grocery list, but telling different stories and really trying to tap into culture to really be relevant about what we're telling. And then we go all the way to production. We make sure that the people that we're casting truly represent the people that we're trying to reach out, that the person on the scene, for example, there is the makeup artist that can be able to cater to that, for example, a skin color or kind of hair that they have. And what it is incredible is that when you see it like that in a cross-functional way across the whole agency, it really changes the output that you're putting out into the world.
And so what are the key principles that you recommend following for speaking authentically to diverse audiences when we're talking about healthcare marketing?
I think that the number one thing that we need to start with is clients understanding the need for a discovery phase on every project. I think for a long time, we have gone through assumptions and stereotypes of, the people that we really want to talk to, but we haven't done the due diligence of having research, of really, for example, doing social listening, understanding what people are saying and not saying to our faces, and just really having an understanding of who we're talking to, not because we assume that that's their story to be told, but really understanding, who we're talking to. I think for a long time we have just played into kind of assuming what people need or want, but we haven't done that research. So I think the number one thing to really become an authentic storyteller for these kind of audiences is just really doing the research to understand who they are as people.